Alright. Wedging table. Wedging table. There we go. Go live. Da 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 da. Watch up some of this stuff here. One's done. Two. Just up. Sometimes when I'm wedging, I have to wonder what it would be like to look at things at at an atom level, atomic level. You know, when you're spinning all these little clay particles around, I wonder if you could see the motion of the clay particles spinning as well, right? You gotta remember, I'm pretty sure when I'm spinning this, I'm spinning in the way that the wheel is spinning as well, right? I wonder if that has any influence over how the clay is aligning. And I wonder if it would be better if it was the opposite way, right? Sometimes you can track that stuff if you ever marble your clay body. You can kind of visually see what's happening there, but I don't really do that stuff. Is this lo-fi? Then is lo-fi the new smooth jazz? I don't know if this is lo-fi. I think it's just called space jazz. From the North Woods? Huh? I don't know what you mean. Alright. So we got that stuff wedged up here. Pottery shelf. Alright. Green on. Good morning, chili dogs. What you focus on grows. Feed the horses. We got 3 more pots coming at you guys. I'm gonna get over there. I'm gonna kind of speed through it today. I have during the summer session, I'm not working 7 days a week, so I finally have my Sundays to myself, and I'm like so pumped up. I'm gonna do some editing later, and then I'm actually gonna call some people, and it's gonna be cool. But anyway, I'm gonna get over there. I'll see you guys in a second. Green off. It's time to win the UFC belt. Don't slack, my boy. I never do. Trust me, I'm getting that UFC belt. United Federation of Clay Championship belt. The UFC. Alright. I actually love getting clay under my fingernails. Sometimes, like, it'll be like really late at night, and then you'll be like looking at your fingers or like grooming yourself, and you see all this clay out, and it's like, a little artifact from my earlier endeavors, right? Somebody asked me, what's your life philosophy? Do I have a piece of advice for people? I don't know. I'm still a young guy, right? So I don't have a lot of wisdom yet, right? But I think a lot of my stuff, like my thoughts and theories, I think part of the coolest thing about living in today's society, right, is the fact that there's fictional characters that invoke such a deep emotion from you, right? I'm thinking about characters like Rock Lee and Naruto and, a lot of like newer characters as well. And I think, a lot of people just like dish them off as just like some little cartoon, right? But I think they really help you like have this image of something that's impossible and like attack it unrelenting. And so I always say just pick something and just attack it unrelenting no matter what, right? It would be awful to wake up in the morning with dry clay. That's so funny. Somebody said their spirit animal is an armadillo. I feel like I don't know what my spirit animal is. Yeah, unrelenting. Well, it's actually unrelenting. If you ever played a game called Skyrim, there's this shout called unrelenting force, right? Fus Roda, right? And it's so funny, but I love that word, just an unrelenting force. How cool, like if somebody was to say, "Oh, how did you live your life?" or how would you want to be remembered by, right? And if somebody said, "Dang, Pottery Demon, he was an unrelenting force," right? How freaking cool would that be? There's an arrow in your knee, so funny. Somebody said hello. Hi, how you doing? I'm gonna grab my llama here. Llama's gonna bite down right on this rim. When I get over here to camera B. Camera B. There we go. Right up underneath. Slowly pull this up. Call this a llama pole. It's almost, you want to get it to look like a volcano there, right? There's this one scene from SpongeBob where they get like superpowers, and Squidward is like this volcano guy, and he says, "Krakatoa!" I always thought it was kind of funny. But anyway, you're gonna grab your knuckle, and you're slowly gonna walk that in, right? And you can see that clay is really battling me on that base, right? But I just sort of sit there and I just power through it. I don't freak out. I don't stop and try to get back below it, right? I finish off that pole. Every single time, I always try to finish off that pole, right? Also, I think my voice might be really loud. I can see it peaking towards 6, so I'm gonna lower this down a little bit. How's that? Maybe a little bit. How's that? That's really good, I think. Alright, get a little bit more water. I might color this in just a tad. I think that's something I want to do. Again, right down to the bottom. I'm going to ask, you always ask the clay for a quest, and the clay will always give you a quest in the form of this little bump that you just have to take right up the side of the vessel here, right? Sounded fine to me, to BH. Is it too quiet? If you haven't, I would recommend reading a bit of philosophy. Processing clay is actually a common allegory for trusting the entropy of your life and your own ability to shape the result. This is my thought on that, right? Like, people always are like, people love to read, people love to think, but I think not a lot of people like to do, right? It's a very, I'm not saying that reading's easy, but I think a lot of times people use reading and sitting still and thinking as a way to address something that's lacking in their life that they could physically be getting done, right? And so for me, I just rather not. I like to do my thinking through material, right? Are you making a scaled down replica of the Tower of Babel? Interesting. Duolingo, did you do your lesson today? Oh, that's so funny. Alright, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The water. And you're slowly going to push this top outwards, and it's going to twist up that middle nice and tight. Slowly release off, kiss that rim, there you go. Aw, thanks. I can't wait to tell my partner she really likes Duolingo, so I can't wait to tell her that Duolingo subscribed to me today. That's so funny. Sure, some like trial and error, others like to find the instructions first. Totally, I totally respect that. I think there's definitely a lot of people who like to do the instructions first. That's just not the type of thinker I am, you know? Did a 4 pedal on the bottom here. It was a little thin, so we ripped it in some areas, but there's number 1. All right, camera A. All right, wedging table. Wedging table. I'm making 3 trees. Yep. Somebody said 3 trees today. 3 trees every day, you know? I'm almost at a year. I see the finish line, but you always got to be careful when you see the finish line, right? The hardest part to do is, first step is the starting of something, right? And then the second hardest is the finishing of something, right? It's that middle part in which your mental CPU has the least amount of load on it, right? Starting's hard. You're breaking through some of your natural habits that you've been building up to do something that you desire. And then the ending is that goal, that finish line, that reward that starts baiting you, right? And taking up more of that space in which you could be focusing on some other stuff, right? And so you got to be careful with that. Somebody said, do you like fiction books? If you do, I recommend The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I've never read, I don't really read too much. Every once in a while my friends will, get me into reading, was it a manga, right? But yeah, I stopped reading a little bit ago. I don't normally have time to do that. And then in my free time, my only thing I really like to do is play video games. And so, I don't even usually have a lot of free time to do that, but hopefully now, I'll have some more time in the summer here. down. And then see this right hand, this thing that's going to be going, wherever you see that wobble. Somebody asked me, what games do I play? I used to really like, what's the word? Like competitive games. And then I kept getting dumpstered by like 10-year-olds who were like 10 times better than me, right? And I was like, this is just not my thing, you know? And so I started picking up like strategy games like RimWorld, right? And even some adventure games like, oh, this isn't even on. That's so interesting. Hold on, guys. My my bat wasn't on right. Or some like adventure games like, if you ever heard of a game called Elden Ring. But I found myself increasingly not liking games like that and more just into strategy games. My hammer fist is coming down right on top. Slowly bring this down. What's the name of the machine I want to buy for me? What's the name of this machine? The wheel? This is one of Brent pottery wheels, right? I think it is a, this is one that's marked for like larger amounts of clay, I think. It's the CXC, but Elden Ring is the best game, changed my mind. I mean, I think if you're a kid and you want to get into gaming and you play Elden Ring for the first time, I always wish, like when I played Skyrim for the first time, like that changed how I perceived like the gaming digital world, right? I can't imagine being a little kid and then booting up Elden Ring for the first time. Must be like literally crazy, you know? So, it is a pretty good game. Sometimes I think that, I don't know, I think nowadays I kind of like puzzles, where I think Elden Ring, you know, it's a puzzles to memorize like attacking and fighting patterns, but it's so massive. I think it's hard for certain types of gamers to like sit down and really give it the time that, you know, the game demands. Somebody said, you love China? Alright, xie xie. Xie xie is thank you in Chinese, I think. I want to make a gift for my mom. A spoon? Yeah, you can make a spoon. Love your pottery, it looks very cool. Ah, thank you, I appreciate it. Alright, you're gonna grab your knuckle. Alright. Wheel. Wheel. There we go. Slowly again, I'm slowly bringing that knuckle. And I'm keeping my finger, you know, on the interior. It's tense, right? But it's not pushing outwards, right? I'm allowing that right hand, right, the exterior hand, to dominate over that interior hand and allow that to push inward. I'm almost imagining like it's kind of like a upside down ice cream cone, right? And then that drummy part, right, with all the chocolate on the bottom, that's what we're aiming towards, but on the center of the pot there. Right, we're going back down again, right to the bottom here. You know, very slow always towards that bottom. Start defining that bump. It's that quest the clay gives you. You slowly just lift that up, right? A lot of people call this a pole. I think sometimes for beginners it's not ideal to call it that. I think really you should always be calling it like a lift, right? But pole and lift are doing the same things. I just think the word of a pole, like when you think pole, it's like this yanking motion, right? Somebody said that you're new here. Well, thank you for stopping in. I appreciate it. I throw 3 pots every single day, and I'm almost at a year, right? Alright. Camera B. There we go. A bit more water on my elbow. Again, right in on this base. And when we get to this top part, we gotta slow down just a little bit, and we gotta make sure we don't pull as much, because I noticed on that last pull that this top part was a little bit thin, and so I don't want it to rip or tear. So I'm gonna chill out on this top. I don't want to pull too much, but I want to make sure I do address that rim of the pot, right? You can start seeing where it's getting a little bit wacky here, right? And so I think I'm gonna have to do something a little bit different for this top here. Somebody said they'll subscribe because they like it. I'm a nice person. Again, I appreciate it. You know, I always say the most important thing that you have in your life is your time. And so the fact you're spending some time here with me, I appreciate that, you know. All right. Recently, I've been having a lot of my pots after fall apart, right? Towards the bottom, so I gotta make sure I take some more water out of that bottom this time. And again, I'm just gonna slowly walk these up. Slowly winding this up right on that part where it's a little bit thin, right? So we're just gonna pop that out just a little bit, nothing too crazy. It's gonna get too thin there, so it's probably gonna collapse on this top, but we'll let it slowly kiss that rim. And I think too, we'll give it one little twist on the inside here. We just want to make sure this is nice and tight. Let's sit down. Look at that, right? Winding that up a little bit. And now, I'm just going to pull this down. And I'm looking at this one, you know, we have that middle really nice and tight. And so how about we did some petals in the first one, we're going to do some longer tendrils. And I think there's a really nice contrast from that middle trunk of this tree, and then the top kind of budding out towards that top there, right? Can you show me how to make a spoon, please? I feel like, you know, I've done some thrown spoons, but the only thing that I would say with spoons is that usually the spoon part is a little bit too wide, right, to throw it on the wheel. I think you'd best be off just like throwing like a very small little vase, almost like how people do those little like mini pottery, throw a vase and then cut it in half. And then it's really hard to glaze spoons, right, to have a fully glazed spoon. And so I also think that you have to devise some sort of firing mechanism on how to fire it, right? And so maybe it's two things. Maybe it's wood and the ceramic. The ceramic is just where the mouth piece goes, and then you make a wooden handle. And you have to figure out that, you know. Somebody says, Sans, do you remember me last stream? You were in the stream yesterday or a couple days ago? I stream every day, so but no, but I love Undertale. I feel like that game is awesome. Yesterday? Then I don't remember. What did you say something in the stream that I talked about maybe? Like usually if you say something that about like pottery and I mention it, I usually remember those bits, but if it was just like saying hello or something, then I don't really remember. how I dropped a finished piece in ceramics. I've dropped so many things. I've broken so many things too. The thing is you can't really, it's like anything, right? You can't let those little like failures or mess ups dictate how you proceed, right? You always got to keep an open mind to that sort of stuff. When something fails, you say, okay, what's next, right? You can't be thinking about, oh, I wish I could have done this a little bit better. I mean, maybe you can think that way, but you can't let it, stutter your moving forward process. All right. Camera A. All right. Stuff about. Oh yeah, I totally remember. I couldn't. I didn't understand when you were saying that at the very. It was at the very end, right? I didn't really understand what you were meaning by that. If you wanna. Were you kind of just saying that like famous YouTubers don't interact with people in the same way that small YouTubers do? May I ask why you don't sell your pieces? Oftentimes, when you go to sell something, right, or when you make stuff, right, and you do it for this goal of it to be sold, right? Camera B. If you do it for the goal of it to be sold, right? You're adding another thing in your brain that you need to think about as you're making things, right? Like if I really wanted to sell pots, I would just make normal pots that had a functional use if I wanted to sell them. But then you got to think about it. You're making them to sell them. You're not making them to get better or to callous your mind or to work on your mentality. For me, everything I want to do in my life, I structure it as what is this doing for my mentality? Is it strengthening my mentality or is it weakening it, right? And I try to cut out as much of the stuff that's weakening it as possible, right? And so I think as soon as you start selling things, you're limiting what your creative mind can produce just because you want to sell the thing. So that's kind of my mind set on that. Right towards the bottom, I bring this up. The key with this is that it's narrow, so it's easier to center this base part here. And you can tilt this right over to the side. And clay is going to move over. You can see how I'm tilting that over forward because there's no clay in this area over here. So as you're pushing it down, it's going to want to glide down way easier. Transition that hand in front and get into a push and pull motion and bring that back up. Now it's really nice and centered right on that base. Okay, great. Hammer fist is coming down. And the base is the key to get that, to get something centered. As soon as you get that base centered, you're cruising. Life is going to be way easier on you once you get that base centered, right? Maybe that's a metaphor too. Once the structure, the foundation is solid, everything else, any storm that comes your way, you feel a lot more confident dealing with. So funny. Pottery, learn life lessons from pottery. So funny. How long have I been doing pottery? I've been working with clay on the wheel seriously for 4.5 years, but I've been doing ceramics for working with clay for maybe 6 years, but I didn't start taking pottery seriously until 4.5 years ago. Do you do this for views or do you do it for passion? Neither. Views are cool though, right? Because I think I have a lot of ideas about pottery, and I think there's a lot of really there's a lot of things in the pottery vernacular and the way that it's functioning in the world that I don't agree with, right? And so I think I care about the pottery stuff a lot. I don't love it, right? I actually hate it, but it brings a lot of value to me. So when I see that a lot of people or certain ideas are getting really popular in ceramics, I just get a little bit, not annoyed, but I just want to have my voice in there as part of the, I just want to battle against some other people's ideas on what pottery should be, right? So I like that idea of the view things, but from right now, this whole year is just because I want to be doing this every day. And so when you throw something out into public, right? Like, oh, I'm going to throw 3 pots every day. If you record it and post it, right? Then you're not allowing yourself to be able to like lie, right? And so it becomes a game of being honest with oneself. And so it's both of those, right? Oh, that's so funny. All right. Get that first poll. All right. We're going to color this in just a little bit here. Michael Candy, hope you're doing well, man. Always, dude, always. A little bit of water right on here. Again, whenever you looking at this clay right here, right? I always think about it as like this clay is like, or your hands are like little data cables. So you're plugging them in to your information source here. And as you are throwing, right, the clay is relaying that information to you on what it's allowing you to do to it through your hands, right? And so really the whole goal of pottery should be trying to listen to the material, right? I find this little bump. I ask that clay, hey, you got something for me? And it always gives me this little bump. And you get your S curve, right? One finger on the the finger on the exterior is underneath that finger on the interior, and you just lift that bump up, right? Somebody says they're on the toilet. This is therapeutic for me. That's awesome, man. You know, there's whatever you think about Freudian theory, right? He always says that, or there's this idea or a message between him and some other philosopher or something, right? And they were talking about how we like clay because it reminds us of that primal instinct to play with our own fecal matter, right? Which is pretty weird, but not out of pocket for some of the things that Freud has said, right? But again, you find this little bump. Slowly walk this up. And you'll see there's a little bit of wobble in that middle section there. But I'm not freaking out. I just continue that pull. And we go all the way up to the top here. The top is the hardest to deal with. It says the most tension towards that bottom, right? And look at that. There we go. Guess what? You're going around the world with a person tonight for 2 weeks. Wow. I feel like that's an awesome opportunity. A lot of people love traveling, you know. For me, I can't travel. It's hard for me to relax or travel when I feel like I have things I gotta get done, right? For me, traveling from my upstairs down here to do some pottery is the only traveling I need for right now. But I hope you enjoy where you're going. You know, I think it's again, it's really cool to go around. I mean, if I was to ever travel, I think I'd want to travel to some pottery, really crazy pottery places. Like I think India, there's a lot of really interesting pottery happening in India, a lot of interesting pottery happening in China. I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff in Korea and Japan, just not my sort of vibe. And so I don't know if I want to go there. But yeah. Alright, so here we go. I'm gonna walk these up. Do a spider pull right on this top edge here. We did a double tree top. You guys could see the interior of this one. The interior looks pretty crazy. Alright. Make Cthulhu. Kind of looks like a jellyfish right now, to be honest. Hey, what power would you pick, having flight or invisibility? Do I have to choose, or can I choose neither? I think as soon as you make yourself like a superhuman, it's harder for people to respect your achievements, right? And so I think if I was to get flight, people would like me more because I can fly rather than because of the pots that I make on the wheel, right? But if I have to choose, maybe I would choose invisibility. I think having invisibility, and like, could you imagine you have invisibility and go out into the woods, right? And you can get really close to like a deer or something and they don't even know you're there. I think it'd be kind of cool. You could see a lot of like really interesting things, or like frogs come out, you know, they notice your presence. And so if you could mask that, I think you'd be able to see a lot of things that humans don't normally get to experience. We'll see how many we got here. We'll do 3 tendrils on this one. Alright, slowly walk these up. Alright, push this in, push this in, push this in, push this in. Somebody said this is the best one that I made out of today, or just in general? I really like the interior of this one though. Yeah, I wish you guys could see that. Here, camera A. Camera A. Can you see that interior there? It's hard to... Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Well, maybe I'll be able to show you guys in a second here. Somebody asked me if I had to pick a devil fruit from One Piece, what would you pick? I'm not huge into... I haven't watched a lot of the One Piece stuff, but I know some of the devil fruits. There's one where it's like a moving fortress, right? Where you can basically you create this like fortress around you or something, right? I think I'd pick that one. So then instead of having all of my pots all over the floor and stuff, I could keep them, you know, with me at all times just by using that devil fruit's power. You see the interior of that one? A little bit, right? Just look at the way that it's just like almost just sneaking in there, you know? There's like this little gap in between here that I just think is really cool looking. Maybe I gotta do one of these things too. That way it's a little bit more sturdy there, huh? We'll have this one in the back. Yeah, I just really like it. Like this bump here, right? It creates this little gap, right? and then you can only see through that gap, kind of like around where that spiral is. It's really, I don't know, I'm a fan. Alright, do we want to show you guys the back with the rip or the collapse side opening up, right? I'm thinking we want to show you the opening up, right? I think this one I can speak a little bit of, I feel like it's more focused about this rim ripping and falling apart here. This is that first one, but it fell apart, you can see. Also, this one is starting to really want to collapse here, so I just want to make sure it doesn't totally get destroyed here. So that's water fissuring, right? So that one's kind of in some trouble here. So, all right, pottery shelf. Yep, there we go. Alrighty. Alright. Green on. We're back again with another pottery review. We're going to start off with this one. This one's starting to water fissure towards the bottom. I should have done a better job getting some of that water off that. But I do think the tendrils and the lean on this one, it's very emotive. Like, this has got to be one of the pots in the past couple days that has the most emotion kind of baked into it. Really looking like, if you type in figure gesture drawing online, there's something really emotive about this one. It's almost human, the way the appendages are crawling up the side of the vessel there. Anyway, we got this one here. We did a double bump on top, and we're actually sneaking in this interior. There's like a cool little spiral on the interior. I'll show you here. Wheel. So you can kind of see that interior spiral on this one a little bit, right? And that bump creates this little void where it's almost like hugging right around that spiral that's happening on the interior. I also think the thin tendrils on this one look pretty cool, so it's quite a vibe. And then we got this one right up here. I like the way that when the rim rips, right, and it almost ends up looking at you, right? And that rim, I always think, ends up looking like a framing device, right? And it's framing that spiral that's happening on that interior. You can almost see it. It's almost like the mouth is opening up there. And you can see that spiral happening. But the petals are a little bit thin on that one, so I'm not too sure, but I do like the way that one looks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. All the best, and strong mentality. Would you fight a lion or 5 cheetahs with powers, slaps super speed or super strength? I think I'd fight a lion with super speed. You just got to run around the lion until you exhaust it, and then you could beat it, right? How many pots have you made? I'm at 937 of the tree forms, but in my whole life, I don't know. I maybe around like 6,000 pots over my whole couple, 4.5 years here or something like that. My face, I can pick out just one. Oh, you should wait until you see all of them. Some of them get pretty crazy. It's a cool trio. They look alive, totally. All right, sweet. Cool, well, I'll see you guys around, okay? I'm going to just head off here now. All right, peace out, guys. Computer, I'll see you guys in the next one.